Hello and welcome to Bring Into Being. Have you ever thought to yourself, I want to feel better, but you just don't know how? Well, then this is the place for you. Here you will find practical tips, information, education, and some fun and play around self-empowerment and learning how to connect with your body, connect with your emotions, your thoughts and beliefs, and make some changes that will lead to feeling better. My name is Julie Chapman and I am your host. I'm thrilled that you're here. So let's get started. Welcome to another episode of Bring Into Being. I'm your host, Julie Chapman, and I have to tell you, I have been kind of obsessing over the concept of open circuits or incomplete circuits when it comes to emotion and how it gets stuck in our bodies. Think of emotion as energy that we create. You can feel it when you are angry, certainly. It feels as though you're going to explode. Where did that energy come from? But more importantly, where does it go if you can't move it all the way through? Well, I will tell you, it can get stuck in your body. And when I say stuck, I mean show up as physical pain, tension, disease, and all sorts of other things. So thinking of the open circuit, we can think of our childhood and what it was like when we would have a temper tantrum or a big emotional response to something. And I don't know about you, but when I did that as a child, my parents basically said to go to my room or go cool off. But there wasn't a lot of direction or guidance as far as how to move that emotion, how to deal with that emotion that I was feeling. This is no fault of my parents. I certainly am not blaming them. I think we know more now. And so we can look at it in a little bit of a different way. If you think about all of that energy that's created with a negative emotion and think about it not being able to process and move through, you can see how that might cause a lot of problems and affect our overall quality of life. In my mind's eye, I kind of imagine this frayed cord or this frayed rope where now that it's open, it's almost more vulnerable, more fragile, more reactive when other negative emotions are felt as well. It's almost as though that open circuit allows a greater trigger or a greater response than you normally would have had you been able to bring yourself back to a balanced, harmonious, and neutral state. So what does an open circuit feel like? We can think of times in our lives where we felt really big emotions, perhaps, unfortunately, if we experienced trauma in childhood, or big events, losses, disappointments, betrayals. These emotions are huge and overwhelming. And generally, when we're feeling them, we're just scrambling to get away from them. We don't generally want to stay feeling that emotion. And I want to add that it's okay to put a pin in it so that you can function and get away from the situation or get away to a calmer place. But ultimately, that emotion does need to be dealt with. And if it's not, it's left kind of open to roam around. I kind of see it like a little gremlin or a monster, just causing problems, chronic pains in the body. Anytime that you have another stressful day or anxious moment, that little gremlin activates and it gets to jump around and cause a little more problem. And here's the biggest kicker of all. We may not even recognize that that's what's going on. We become so disassociated or disconnected for lots of good reasons, such as coping and just being able to get through whatever we've been experiencing that was just so overwhelming. The problem with the disassociation or disconnection is that we're also disconnecting from ourselves, from sensation in our bodies, from each other, and even disengaging from our lives. This isn't a place that we want to stay, but first you need to recognize that that's what's actually happening. This can show up in feeling kind of flat emotionally, or being extremely emotional and sensitive, feeling really out of control of your emotional states. It could also be just the sensation of low hum of anxiety or stress that never leaves you. It could look like jumpiness or an impulsive desire to please others, to be good, to do well, to look good. Anything that just doesn't really align with how you feel on the inside, who your true self is, and a general feeling of like you're missing out, that there's more and you're not sure quite how to get there. Or chronic pains in the body, mysterious conditions like vertigo, chronic headaches, instability in the body, foot and hip problems, low back problems, neck. If you really look at these conditions or situations, you may notice a pattern where that low back pain flares up when you have a stressful day at work. Or your knees start to feel like they're swollen and achy after an argument or a conflict with a loved one. Or maybe your head and neck begin to feel tight and contracted, turning into a headache after feeling an especially anxious or stressful day. These things are related. One equals the other. Our physical body is telling us the state of our emotions. It is always communicating with us and always telling us the truth. But it's up to us to listen. And quite often, we're doing a lot to turn away the advice and support of the body. Everything comes back to learning awareness and self-observation, without judgment or criticism, with love and kindness, and just some playful or curious observation for what you find. I know it's hard sometimes to take a real look at ourselves, but if anything is to change, we really do need to bring awareness into the spaces where we can make a change. We can interrupt a pattern or a habit, and we can create something new for a different outcome. I know it can be scary and feel very vulnerable, but it is such a brave and courageous thing to do, to truly look at yourself, to see the places that maybe have been kept in the dark or hidden for a long time, and just to acknowledge and love them anyway, to recognize that no matter what, you have never been undeserving. Beginning by bringing some awareness, perhaps even creating a little journal and writing the times where you can make those connections between a physical tension or pain or discomfort or perhaps chronic colds or headaches or nausea. Just begin noticing the patterns. Begin listening to the information that your body is giving you. And you will see that your emotional state equals your physical state, and your physical state equals your emotional state. If you are feeling really good and light and happy, you're not going to be emotionally heavy and dark and down. But if you are feeling emotionally heavy, dark, and down, the chances are your body also will feel sluggish and blocked and stuck, and perhaps some tension or some pain. Perhaps again in that low back or the neck. This is how it works. And this is the truth of you. Taking the time to learn the awareness, to notice your body. And by noticing your body, you're bringing yourself into the present moment. This is where the magic can happen. This is where you, beautiful, brave soul, can take a moment and bring your awareness and notice what is going on. Here is where change can happen. This is also where we can begin to notice where those open circuits are. So once we've brought our awareness, our loving, kind observation of ourselves, how do we go about closing those loose ends and completing the circuits? There are lots and lots and lots and lots of ways to do this. And I will say that not every way works for every person. So it really is about exploring and seeing what you feel the most beneficial for you. It could be things like movement, like yoga or Tai Chi. It could be things like breath work or meditation, mindfulness. But if all of those sound a little hooby-jooby to you, it could also just be spending time in nature and being really present, listening to the bird song, listening to the ocean waves, feeling those feelings in those kinds of beautiful spaces. It could also be something like writing in a journal. Many people find this very cathartic, and I personally have been writing in journals since I was 15 years old. What kicked that off was my dad passed away when I was 15, and I did feel very alone at the time. I just naturally turned to writing in journals, and I still have every journal I've ever had since I was 15 years old. It's quite an interesting thing to look back and read and see where your mind was at certain times in your life. So journaling can be very good. It can also, of course, be seeing counselors or seeking some sort of other health or wellness modality, acupuncture, massage therapy. Again, there's so many ways to process those emotions and release that stuck state that you've been in. The other important thing to do, though, is not just to find those areas of tension and release them or move through them. It's also about giving yourself a new narrative, because all of this is based on the identity that we have of ourselves, the narrative that we have been telling ourselves for our whole lives. We are fulfilling the narrative. But once again, where did that narrative come from in the first place? Well, when we're children, up to about the age of 10 years old, the narrative is given to us by caregivers, by loved ones, by grandparents and parents and teachers, and anyone that we felt was an influence on our lives. Here's the problem. Chances are it's not correct, or it's not true, or certainly not true of you today in this present moment. If we are choosing to keep or hold on to an identity that we were given as a child, when maybe we were a little hyperactive and our parents got mad at us and always told us that we won't amount to anything unless we can calm down and focus. We carry that identity for our entire lives. And every decision we make in our lives, this is the filter through which we make those decisions. So think about it. If you were the kid that was a bit hyperactive and you were told by your parents that you wouldn't amount to anything if you couldn't focus, you are either going to become a type A personality that's going to try and prove them wrong at every step, or you're going to be very hard on yourself when you find it difficult to calm your mind or calm your body. And there's going to be a lot of self-judgment and self-criticism there. The thing is, maybe now you're an adult who has found some of the tools to bring your focus into clarity for yourself. Maybe you have realized that going for a run every morning helps you to focus and engage better. And so you are no longer that 6-year-old child that had trouble focusing. You have found your ways, your tools to live your life. And so that narrative is no longer true, but the decisions and choices are still being made by them. A very powerful exercise that you could utilize is beginning to notice a feeling. And when you feel the feeling, filling in the blank for yourself to this sentence: I feel blank because I choose to believe blank. Whatever first comes to mind to fill in the I choose to believe part, this is going to be very telltale for you. And it might be quite heavy and emotional. But I have found this extremely helpful in uncovering some of those beliefs or the narrative that I've been carrying that really isn't me. So the sentence is, I feel blank, which means I choose to believe blank. So it could be, I'm feeling very doubtful. I'm feeling self-doubt, which means I choose to believe that I'm not worthy of accomplishing my goal. I'm choosing to believe that I don't deserve it. And this is why I'm feeling self-doubt. If I can uncover that little hidden gem in the darkness and see it as valuable for the fact that I'm being told a little truth about myself, not that it's true, but here's the nugget that has been running the show. Is it true? Absolutely not. And so here's the opportunity to expose it to the light, to look at it, acknowledge it. Don't push it away, acknowledge it, and thank it for the information it has provided you, and then find a different belief or thought that is true of you now. So if my thought was, I'm feeling self-doubt because I choose to believe I don't deserve it, my new thought could be, I'm choosing now to believe in myself. I'm choosing now to know my value, my worth. I choose now to believe that anything I want is achievable for me. I know at first this may be hard, and you may have a little voice in your mind that's telling you, no, that's not true. Ignore that voice, because that's just the old tape or the old record not wanting to change. Those thoughts will still pop in, but if we can start practicing awareness of when they do, and then replacing with a new thought, a better thought, we have a much better chance of returning to the positive thought more easily and more frequently. And from here, life will change. It can't not change. If you've been feeling your whole life that you weren't worthy or deserving, and then you come to a place where you realize, oh my God, of course I'm worthy and of course I'm deserving, and start acting that way and making choices through that way and feeling that way and beaming out to the world that way, absolutely, your life is going to look different. The connections you have with yourself, with others, with the world around you, everything will improve and start to reflect that new way of feeling and thinking about ourselves. So, practicing finding those open circuits, noticing where there's tension in the body, noticing what emotion is related or vice versa, uncovering some of those truths about ourselves, coming back to the beliefs that we may have, that narrative, and really bringing the awareness to listen in and see, is it true? Is it still true? Is there something that I can change about this to update the narrative? Is there some way that I can take control of the narrative? So instead of it being the identity I was given, I choose my own narrative and my own identity now. And then closing that circuit, completing and processing those places of tightness, moving, breathing, finding some calm, utilizing your breath, utilizing whatever it is for you that brings calm and peace to your mind, to your body, to your life. This is the tool that works for you, and this is what is going to get you to that next place, that happier place, that more engaged place, and a greater life experience. I send you with love, and I am so proud of the bravery and the courage that it takes just to start to begin thinking about these concepts. The next step is up to you, my friends. You are in charge of the narrative.